I'm very happy to be here and to be able to say a few things about religion and education. Is it picking up? Not picking up. I'm just going to hold this up. Does this work?
Yes.
Try to be a rock star. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So, I think it's very clear that education is really one of the critical issues in the entire church-state domain. I often tell students that if they want to see a democracy at work, they should go to a school board meeting. It's an area that's vital from the perspective of parents, it's vital from the perspective of religious communities. It's a significant indicator of the nature of religion-state relations. It's vital in the long run for promoting stability, and it's vital in the context of this conference for development. It's really become apparent that if you want to really have a general education, that you really need to know things about other religions, other religious groups. There's the growing influence of faith-based communities. As Katrina Sweat said in the immediately preceding thing, the secularization thesis in its classical form is dead in the sense that outside of Europe and for the most part, we see the strength of religion in the public sphere everywhere. And so we really need to take this into account as a factor. One of the reasons for this is that 80% of the world's population identifies with a religious group. There are slightly over 16% who are unaffiliated, but many of these still have religious beliefs. They're just not aligned with organized religion. So understanding the religious background is extremely important. There's also a challenge of religion because, well, something like 80% of the people in the world are religious, and it is true that about 73% of the world's population live in countries where they are in the majority. There are about 27%, a little over a quarter, who live in a situation where they are in a minority. And the truth is, many who are part of majority religions may be part of a smaller splinter group of the majority so that they're minorities. I remember several years ago I was asked to write that the European Consortium was doing their annual event, and it was going to be on treatment of minority religions. And so one of my friends, Silvio Ferrari, invited me to do the parallel topic on religious minorities in America. I thought this was very funny because it meant right about everyone. Because the largest group in the United States is the Catholics. They have about 25%, it's going down 22. It was 25 when I did this. So, but this is a reality in most countries. One of the sociological realities is the world is religiously pluralistic, even if we have the sense that in our own country there is a sort of a religious minority or a prevailing religion. There are always minorities in every country that I know of, and globally we're all minorities. So this is the challenge of pluralism. Some interesting statistics that make you think about education. These are the median ages of the world religions, the youngest being Muslims. I won't go through the statistics. However you look at this, one of the things this means is that at any given time, we have literally millions of people sort of entering upper teenage years, lower sort of young adult years. I used to teach criminal law, and one of the well-known facts in criminology is most crime is done by young males between the age of 15 and 25. Most religious violence is done by young men between 15 and 25, or I should say violence in the name of religion. One of the things this means is that it's really critical to find ways for those cohorts of young people who are coming of age to find some ways to help diffuse patterns that could be patterns of violence, issues of counterterrorism and so forth. So again, education is really one of the only answers that we have. So this is really, I think, one of our greatest challenges, and it's one of the greatest challenges if you think about it for peace and development. Okay, several years ago I had the opportunity to work on a project done by the OSCE on teaching about religion. It was the Toledo Guiding Principles. Many of you would have seen these. We can easily make them available to you online. While they're a few years old, believe me, the basic principles are still current. What I thought I would do is, and just tell me when I need to stop. I think I've got a few minutes left. I just want to describe some things about this project because I think it's very useful. We took a human rights kind of approach to thinking about how you teach about religion. Now, this is not teaching of religion, that is, it's not inculcating religion of a specific nature. It's just our idea was if you wanted to introduce into a school or school system teaching about religion, how do you do it? How do you do it in respectful ways? And what I want to do is just highlight some of the things that stood out in this process because I think it's really critical and it makes a very significant, it's one way of coming at this problem. I know from several years ago I worked with the UN Special Rapporteur Tubac, Abdel Fattah Amor, and one of his themes while he was Special Rapporteur was education for tolerance, initiating programs in the United Nations or education for tolerance. In some ways, teaching about religion can have that effect. Knowledge about other religions does a number of things. It fosters democratic citizenship, it fosters understanding of diversity. It can enhance social cohesion, it has great potential for conflict reduction, and as I said earlier, it's key to a quality education. Now I'm just going to touch on some major parts of this: preparing the curriculum, preparing teachers, preparing the rights and the process of implementing programs. So, basic guiding principles, and these, it seems to me in retrospect, are common sense, but we gathered a lot of scholars from a lot of countries and a lot of backgrounds to come up with these. The teaching must be fair, accurate, and based on sound scholarship. One of the problems we have in some parts of the world is curricula that contributing to stereotypical thinking about other groups, which is very problematic. The learning environment should be respectful of human rights and should exemplify a spirit of protection of rights and fostering mutual respect. If you have a curriculum that teaches respect, but the teachers and the administration are intolerant, guess which message the students get? So it's very important to try and exemplify patterns of tolerance. The roles of families should be respected. There are a bunch of stakeholders. And one of the key things that we recommended, and I think is very important, is just get representatives of various stakeholders together so they can talk to each other. That makes a tremendous difference in the community, and it can diffuse all kinds of problems. This is true of the curriculum formation process. This is not always easy to do depending how curriculum is formed in a different country, but having input from different groups is one of the critical and respectful things that can be done. To the extent you can, you want to give the people from the religious communities who are describing the curriculum opportunity to have input. Care should be taken to avoid prejudicial material and to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. Now let me just say, this is one of the most significant things I learned. The teachers. Now, think about staffing a program for teaching about religion. Think about a high school. There's some people who teach English. My wife was an English teacher. They teach English. There's some math teachers. There's some history teachers. And then the principal comes and says, we want to do a course on teaching about religion. Might not do this in the United States because they're afraid of getting sued, but that's a different story. School board's afraid of being sued from all sides in the United States. But imagine a teacher. Now, first of all, let me say, if you're a math teacher, you know mathematics, you know the subjects, you've done algebra for years, you can handle it. Then think about teaching about religion. You probably are not a master of your own religion. And if you then add 5 or 10 others, you're clearly not masters of them. How do you get educated for that? But that's not all, because that's not the most important thing. You've got students from different religions in your class. How do you get trained to be sensitive so as you teach about things, you're teaching the students to be tolerant of each other? So what I would say is that one of the most significant things I learned about teaching about religion is the importance of finding and training good teachers. And let me just say, and I'm not sure how I am on time, if I may be out of time, if I'd say nothing else, we all here need to be good teachers. Because what's really important for education is to be able to find ways to communicate respect, to exemplify respect for other countries, for other religions, and then to find ways to teach. Now, most school systems talk about neutrality. The European Court has a lot of decisions about neutrality. There have been some important decisions about Turkey that are not easy to implement. But if we can find ways to respect others, that's great. I think I should stop just because of the time, but I encourage you, if you get a chance, we will have these on our website. Take a look at these if you haven't seen them before. But remember the complexity of teaching in sensitive ways, and that we should all learn how to do that ourselves. Thank you.